how did Rohingya become a stateless population? The issue of statelessness often confuses many people, including the Rohingya themselves. Are Rohingya originally a stateless population, or they are made to be one? Let's dive into the brief history of Rohingya and see how systematically Rohingya were made into a well-known stateless population. The people of Arakan, Rohingya, have a long history of persecution, and the foundation of the ongoing genocide on the Rohingya can be rooted back since the invasion of a prosperous and independent Arakan Kingdom that was ruled and established by King Naramikla. In the year 1784, the Burmese king WWII invades the kingdom of Arakan, located in present-day Burma. From 1824 to 1886, Britain invades Burma, and in this time lapse, Britain engaged in 3 wars. Resulting of wars, Burma becomes a province of British-controlled India and is later separated into a British colony from 1886 to 1942. Same in 1942, a massacre broke out on the Rohingya population, where thousands of Rohingya were mercilessly killed. After the British, the Japanese occupation invaded Burma from 1942 to 1945. Japan invades British-controlled Burma during World War II. During this tough war, members of the Rohingya fought alongside the British and were promised a separate land, which later was betrayed. Along with the Burmese General Aung San and other local leaders, the British defeated the Japanese in 1945. In 1947, in January, General Aung San signs an agreement with the British that guarantees Burma full independence within a year. General Aung San was elected the leader of the transitional government, where members of Rohingya were also included in governing body. In the same year, in July, political rivals assassinated General Aung San and 6 cabinet ministers. Next year, Prime Minister UNU takes the oath of office in the Constituent Assembly on January 2, 1948. Hence, Burma becomes an independent republic. The new parliament passes the Union Citizenship Act. It recognizes all citizens as equal. This includes the Rohingya and other minority groups as well. Following the independence in 1949, Burma sets up its first form of national identification. The government begins issuing registration cards to all citizens, including the Rohingya. From 1951 to 1960, Burma held 3 general elections. All citizens had the right to vote, including the Rohingya. Voters elect several Rohingya as members of parliament. Independent Burma could not last long due to the conspiracy of the brutal military regime, and in 1962, military overthrows government. The Burmese military, led by General Ne Win, overthrows the elected government and establishes military rule. In 1974, Burma's military-run government enacts a new constitution. It establishes a one-party rule. Later that year, Parliament passes the Emergency Immigration Act. The law limits the rights of individuals seen as foreigners. Authorities begin confiscating Rohingya's national registration cards. Burmese authorities then in 1978 launched Operation Naami, or Dragon King, to register and verify the status of citizens and people viewed as foreigners. Soldiers assault and terrorize Rohingya. Since then, the exodus of Rohingya was recorded in 1978. In the fear of such law and persecutions, Rohingya were forced to flee from Arakan into Bangladesh. Formally in 1982, government limits Rohingya citizenship by passing new law at parliament that bases citizenship on ethnicity. The law excludes the Rohingya and other minority communities as well. In 1988, pro-democracy protests flourished throughout Burma, including in Arakan state. This leads to a brutal crackdown by the military across the country. In 1989, the government requires everyone to apply for new identification cards called Citizenship Scrutiny Cards. Rohingya never received the new cards. The National League for Democracy Party wins Burma's national elections in 1990. Aung San Suu Kyi, the daughter of General Aung San, became the party's leader. The military refused to recognize the results and remains in power. In the same year, targeted violence against the Rohingya started in many forms. Consecutively, in 1991, state-sponsored operations against the Rohingya continued, and Rohingya once again were forced to flee their homeland and took refuge in the border areas of Bangladesh. The Burmese military launched Operation Pithaya, meaning Clean and Beautiful Nation, during which soldiers commit widespread violence where more than 250,000 Rohingya were forced to flee to Bangladesh. The same year, from 1991 to 1992, the government creates a special border security force called Nasaka to harass and persecute the Rohingya. Again, in 1992, roughly 150,000 Rohingya from Bangladesh returned to their homeland, Arakan. Although Rohingya returned again in such persecutions, the government started to deny Rohingya children birth certificates in 1994. Then government issues Rohingya a new form of identification known as a temporary registration card or white card, which does not serve as proof of citizenship in 1995. Since then, questions of Rohingya citizenship became a matter of no concern to the Burmese government, and many other forms of illegal verification cards such as green, pink, and many more were given to Rohingya, except their deserved citizenship. The persecution of Rohingya started since the invasion of Arakan Kingdom and continues till today. From a people owning a state, Rohingya became a stateless population wandering around the world just in search of a safe place.